Welcome to SaaS That App, building B2B web applications, the podcast where we share real-world stories, practical advice, and tech insights for those building or thinking about starting a tech-enabled business. I am your co-host, Aaron Marchbanks.
And I'm Justin Edwards. Each week we bring you the stories, strategies, and insights you need to build your SaaS or tech-enabled business smarter, not harder. Let's dive right in.
Hey everyone, welcome to SaaS That App. Finally, at long last, back in the studio, back with the bow tie. Aaron Marchbanks is here with us yet again, my friend. How are you?
I'm doing well. Beard season is back, man. I feel like I've been gone for ages, but it's been long enough for the beard to come back in, so here we are.
Dude, that's a big furry monster you got going on over there. You're not quite to caveman length there, but we're getting close.
That's the goal. By Christmas, I got to get Santa Claus, and then, January, there's progression, right? But I'm definitely due for a little cleanup, a little trim, but yeah, it's kind of fun to have it back.
No, it's great for me too working with you because it's like I set my calendar by it. It's like we start with babyface, we get to homeless, and then we rinse and repeat. It's perfect.
My wife might agree with that. So,
but I bet you it helps with the cold up there in the frigid, frosted north.
Oh, it really does. Yeah, I had a long run this weekend, and it was super nice to not have wind blowing on my face where I could feel it. Although at the end, it was a little crunchy. So,
cool. Well, it's like December. That happened suddenly, and
yeah, it did.
I don't know if the people who listen to us are interested in listening to tech and business stuff in the month of December, but I'm not really that interested in recording it. So we're kind of going into a little bit of an off time. We're going to pick it back up in January and hit it hard, but this is going to be kind of our last official release of the calendar year until January. And we're doing something a little bit different. We've done a couple recently just because we've had so much good stuff on the show. But I asked Aaron to pick 5 clips of his favorite stuff from the inception of the podcast since April. I picked 5 of my favorite. 5 times 2 is 10. So we have 10 guests that we want to highlight on the show for your listening and review pleasure in case you missed the episode or just forgot the nugget. You did your homework, right, Aaron? You got your list?
Oh, yeah. I'm ready to go in no particular order, but I have the 5.
All right. Well, it's satisfying for me to have the first feature on the episode be the first guest ever. So I'll kick us off if I'm allowed.
Do it.
All right. First is TK. This is our first interview that we did on the show. It was so gracious of TK to come on to a show that was new and had no following at the time. He was a monster. He was just awesome on the podcast. The clip that I selected, he's talking about kind of the gunk between our ears and him feeling fear about asking a question in a meeting at a company that he owned and ran. And do you remember the moment? Do you remember the clip?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's really interesting and always enlightening when we get to talk to, CEOs, CTOs, founders, and some of them are just going in and they're feeling like all this pressure of needing to know everything and needing to have all the answers and needing to get everybody rowing in the right direction. But so many of them have that realization moment of, holy crap, I don't. And he did, and he shared it, and it was terrific.
Cool. Well, I think that's teed up as good as it's going to get. So here's TK.
The reason I wasn't asking the questions was I was afraid. I was afraid that I was going to ask a question and the response I'd get back was, dude, you're the CEO of the company. How do you not know that? Or that's a dumb question, but I don't know everything. And here's the insanity of these stories that live in our head and how they drive the bus. Here I am sitting in a building that I own at a company that I started, surrounded by people that I employ, and I'm afraid to ask a question in a meeting. Now, today I would never show up that way.
And we're back. All right, Aaron, your shot. What do you got for us?
All right. So one of my favorite guests of the season, this was back in episode 12, if we're keeping count, this was Joe Kowalski. This dude just has an amazing story, a personal story, which is fantastic, but he's also got just, stacked of decades of knowledge and business sense. And he really spoke to kind of a lot of common sense aspects. But a couple of things that I picked, and I'm cheating just a little bit. I'm actually going to squeeze 2 clips together here. But one of the things that he pointed out is something that these days has become really relevant. The fact that you can get a business off the ground very quickly these days because of tooling that's just readily available. Stuff that's just there. Before you used to have to worry about things like, okay, I need an accountant to do accounting stuff, and I need a salesperson to help me manage all the sales stuff and contacts and things like this. And it gets to be very expensive. You're paying for people's time, then you're also paying for their tooling. And something that he really brought to the table was, if I could do then what I can do now, stuff would have gotten off the ground a lot faster. And so he really points to that. And as an extension, kind of a tackle and clip that I have there is at the same time, while you can get stuff going really quickly, you still don't always have what you need to do a business correctly. And so he kind of spoke to this in the second portion of this clip is even though you may have all this tooling and stuff, you still may have no business starting a business. So here's Joe.
It's seriously, set up my next SaaS, $500 a month. I have everything I need. CRM, email, accounting, backend usage statistics, data recovery. I mean, the whole nine. Now I can focus on the product. There are lots of tech founders that have no business running a company. Like they have a great idea. They were a good engineer. Maybe even you're good at product. That's 1/10 of what you're going to need to build a real company.
Yeah, love Joe. He's so great.
Joe's the best. I was thinking about, there's like a trope where like young people don't understand movies before the cell phone existed. And they're like, why do they just call ahead? How come they didn't hit them on text? And it's like, so we used to have to find a payphone and you had to know the number.
Or look it up in a book.
And I had a little bit that with Joe, because it's like, oh yeah, you just turn on Stripe. Like, why was this a big deal? It's like, yeah, that didn't exist. Like everything that we did, we had to build. Like, wow, it's crazy. Cool. Next up, let's hear from Tom Hunt. So this is a clip about the process of starting a business and how Sisyphusian and slow and how it's just such slow going. But everything you're doing when you're building a business is growing upon itself and it kind of starts the flywheel spinning. And I think Tom just spoke to that really, really beautifully.
Whenever you're starting a business, you're turning this wheel. And at the start, every time you turn it, it might take like a year to turn it because it's really hard because you don't have any previous work. But then every time you turn it, it gets a little bit easier and easier and easier. And so a good idea for a business is to understand what are the steps on that wheel that you can impact, and then how can you get it to turn faster and faster. And then ultimately, if it's turning fast enough, you can step back and it will keep going.
That's Tom Hunt. Love Tom. That was a great interview. And I wasn't sure how it was going to go beforehand. It blew every expectation that I had. I was like, wow, he's awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. You stepped into some of these and it's like, it could go a lot of different directions. That is always interesting to me to see where the interview takes you and to see what the person is going to bring to the table. And Tom did not disappoint.
I think it's your turn, my friend.
All right. So next up, we did a really great interview with Rob Walling. Probably many of you who are listening know of Rob Walling, if not, in person, via conferences that he puts out or podcasts that you may follow, but you may know him by reputation through the books that he has written. He literally has written the books on SaaS. And so it was just an amazing interview to get to have him and get to talk to him about some stuff that he didn't necessarily get a chance to touch on in other venues. But one of the things that I always find interesting, because I am not now nor ever have been a business owner. And so I have never had to go through that process of not only ownership from the start of a business to creating and maintaining a business, but then ultimately to selling a business and exiting because you are wanting to go into something else or you're wanting to put it in people's hands who maybe can do it better. But he made a point to say that it is something that you kind of have to do it, know that you want to do it, and then be done with it when you get on the other side, because regretting it is one of the worst things that can happen. So either you love what you're doing, you want to stay in it. In that case, don't sell it. But for goodness sakes, don't try to get yourself into this situation where you really wish you hadn't done that. So here's Rob just with a quick snippet on that.
What you don't want to do is sell the business and decide that you regret it. You don't want to do that. It's a one-way door. You're never going to have that business again. And so you want to be really, really sure.
Man, Rob is SaaS royalty.
He is.
I'm so honored he agreed to come on the show. He's just such a pro, such a great guy. If you're not familiar with Rob, get familiar with Rob. He's incredible, just incredible.
Absolutely.
Cool. Well, next up in the hopper, I'm going to feature our own in-house Nolan Alamonte, our own in-house wizard, architect, lord of all things programming, the guy who makes me look like I'm good at my job when I'm actually not. He's just the best. We were doing a deep dive on Turbo, which is a new Rails feature. It was more of a technical episode. We were discussing the fact that it's just harder to implement. It's actually more complicated, and that framework has gotten more complicated and more difficult to understand over time. And I was like, well, why don't we just rip this stuff out and go back to something that's more simple? And he smacked me down with just a great clip, and he's exactly right. It's all related to Sting. Sting was kind of the default tooling. So here's Nolan.
If you're a Rails dev and you're starting from zero on a new project, I think the case for deviating from like the recommended tooling and setup of a Rails app, which is now Turbo and Stimulus, like you need to have a really good reason to make that configuration decision. I think in general, like even if it's a little bit more work to implement these interactive elements, the simplicity of staying within the bounds of the framework and the tooling is worth it. It's easier to maintain.
So ask a question, get an answer, I suppose. I guess I was wrong.
Nolan is just fantastic. I mean, the guy's a genius. I mean, at what it is that he does. He's worked hard to get there, and he's the guy that you want. So when you have that question, if it's, especially it's one you don't know, he's probably going to know the answer to it, or can at least get you there in short order. But he's the one that's kind of driving the boat as far as team lead goes and really helping people to understand these technical ins and outs of why are we throwing this away, or why are we trashing this, or why are we moving away from the tooling. And he really holds your feet to the fire and makes you argue your point and see if it's a good one.
Real quick, this episode is brought to you by Delta Systems, which is what Aaron and I do when we're not talking through microphones to you, the people of the internet. We've got a really, really great software team here, and we love to work with cool people on cool projects. So if that sounds like you and you've got a problem or you're in some kind of a jam, go to deltasystems.com, grab a time with us. We can beat up on your problem together, and if there's a fit there, amazing, we'll help you out. So deltasystems.com, grab an appointment, and hey, maybe we can work together.
You got another clip for us, Ben?
So that brings us to me. Yeah. So my next clip is from Ben Curtis. This was episode 25. So this was a few episodes after Rob. And this clip in particular, I really like because I think it encapsulates certainly our philosophy on how we like to handle clients and projects, especially new clients and new projects. But this also holds true for returning clients and returning projects. And I think it's something that a lot of consultancies either are striving for or shoot to strive for or want to have as their standard. And if not, you really should be considering this because it has to do with how you enter into that relationship, because this is all about relationships. It's about building trust with the client. It's about having them understand that, yes, you are an expert in what it is that you do, but this is a partnership. At the end of the day, you are working with the client to build something. And so to make sure that you're going into the relationship or into the feature, into the project, setting those expectations and helping everyone understand that we're here to help. We're not here to dictate, but we will work with you and we will give you our expertise. So here's Ben in a clip that's going to talk a lot about that point.
Understand what someone's motivations are, what their goals are, is really what my job is. And then from there, we can say, okay, how do we move forward with this? Do we hire an agency who has a ready-made group of people who are ready to go and it can build your app for you? Do we go with that outsource team in India because whatever, maybe the scale of what you're trying to build or whatever reasons you have? Or do we start a CTO search, right? And find, that person for you that can really be with you the whole thing. I think most people, when they get off, that first call with me, they think, oh, okay, this guy actually is concerned about me being successful and not just, taking my money and building something, right? So I love that. I love that process. I love helping entrepreneurs find the way to get their passion and to made into reality.
That was Ben, man. We record a lot of episodes. It's like, oh yeah, I remember Ben. He wasn't on the short list of people I remember having on, but yeah, I know his interview was awesome.
Yeah, but I like that he just kind of speaks to that process a little bit. Like I said, when he did it, even at the time, I was thinking, yes, this is somebody that we would get along with great because we have very similar philosophy as it relates to that approach.
So my next clip is going way back in the archives as well to the early ones, as far back as a 1-year-old podcast can go. But do you remember talking with Brian Steiner?
I do remember talking with Brian.
Yeah. So the clip I picked from Brian is he's talking about the role of motivation and how the resources that are available to you don't tell the whole story. If you're properly motivated, you'll find a way. And if you're not, maybe things don't go as well. It's Brian, so there's always going to be a little circumstance with the pump. But here's the clip.
One of our clients really wanted to do an iOS app. No one was using the web app. If you're hearing we need better mobile responsivity, we need to change these views, let's invest more. You gain trust when people say, here's the right thing to do, not here's the easy thing to do, or here's what would be right for me and wrong for you.
Yeah, it was really fun to get to interview this guy that kind of was in the Albuquerque tech scene with me at that time. And he's definitely a friend from a time and place. And it's like, oh yeah, it's just so cool to have him on the podcast and hear him talking about that episode is really cool too. He's doing programming for drones that do anti-weed spray. So they have drones that fly over these farms and spray for weeds. Super cool.
Yeah. It's really interesting to get to see that technology, meet the idea, meet the purpose. That's always really cool. And I love this little quote there. You might be able to kill them, but you can't stop them. It's like, okay, I suppose that's true.
Brian is extremely direct, and I always find that refreshing when you have someone who just says what they mean.
That's right.
Always appreciate that. If memory serves, my friend, that was my clip, so it must be time for your clip.
Yes, I got another one. And I too am grabbing one from Nolan. He's a man of few words, but man, when he says stuff, it's just so great. So this is from episode 21, where we're talking about the situation where we're having to deal with technical debt and the debate between solving the debt a particular way, which would be, updating, maintaining, and building out versus rewriting. And we've had a number of people on the pod, and it's interesting because people feel very strongly one way or the other. Going back to Joe's episode, he talked about they rewrote their product 4 times, like a from scratch rewrite. But while that situation is going to be unique and you need to take that consideration, Nolan does provide a little bit of a different perspective too, where he is talking about something that's at the product level, whether or not we need to solve technical debt at the product level. And that's a rewrite versus update. So he's talking about maintaining, he's talking about cost savings, and he's talking about where we find success in rewrites versus maintaining. So here's Nolan talking tech about that.
A rewrite is not going to solve debt at the product level. Like if you're still not sure what your product should be, or if there's still those types of questions that need to be answered, a rewrite is not going to solve those problems for you. Like the rewrite is strictly a technical solution, right? Like, or a maintainability solution, like maybe cost saving. But if you're carrying over baggage from a product that is like not solidified or that is still kind of in flux, like you're just going to bring all those same problems into your code base and you're going to hit the same issues. The most successful rewrites we've had were projects where the client knew exactly what they needed. There was no ambiguity about what the output should be. And we built exactly what they asked us for initially. And there was very little pivot within that process. And those rewrites always wind up being great.
Well, I noticed a trend. So that's Nolan's second clip. And I'm about to feed you Rob's second clip. So those are some similarity and overlap and stuff that you and I dig on and really like. So yeah, I wanted to put this one last just because Rob is so awesome, but also because I think what he's talking about is a little bit about like level setting and realizing that like if you're a SaaS founder or an entrepreneur, your job's not actually that hard and you're probably in like a pretty good situation. It's the time of year to be a little grateful and a little charitable. And Rob just gives a lot of clarity towards how difficult your job maybe isn't. Anyway, here's Rob.
It is challenging. It is, I hate to say it's hard because I worked construction. That was hard. This is not hard, guys. Like, let's just really, like, I know guys who drive trucks for a living. That's hard work.
Yes.
So let's just super level set that, okay? But in the scheme of sitting at a computer and typing and listening to music all day, let's say, is being a SaaS founder harder than like being a developer at a big company? Yeah, it is. It's a grind and it is ups and downs and is very emotionally draining for sure. It's not physically draining, but it's a lot harder than most people think. And this is why I tell most people, if you are not technical, you are not a developer, consider either co-founding with a developer or building some smaller things first. I have this thing called the stair-step method of entrepreneurship.
All right. That brings us to the very last clip, which is going to be yours. Last clip of 2025.
Oh my gosh. Okay, got to make it a good one. Well, this was a very fun episode for me because it is actually with someone that I have known for over 20 years, have worked with and for all of that time, but really a person that I do love and is very dear to me. This is Steve Powell. He's one of the owners of the company. Also, like I said, a very good friend of mine and someone that I have absorbed a lot of business philosophy from over the years. And to your point about we're coming up on the end of the year, wanting to be grateful and we're wanting to just be aware of those who are around us and what it is that we choose to spend our time doing. And Steve talked a lot about in that interview, culture. And culture is something that's very important to us here. I think it's something that's very important to the world writ large. And talking a little bit about specifically in the business context, what culture is and what it is not. And it's not something that you can really manufacture, though many people have tried. It's something that is shaped, it's molded, it's shared vision, it's shared values. And it's, again, a place where you want to be enjoying what it is that you're doing, but perhaps even more importantly, you want to be enjoying who you're doing it with. And so here's Steve kind of bringing us home, talking a little bit about culture and success in business.
We have this culture is not a pool table. Culture is not a bar on upstairs and downstairs. Culture is not the Xbox in the corner. Now, we had all that for a while, but we got rid of all of it, literally, because nobody was using it. So it was kind of funny. So I think for our company and what we're doing, culture is definitely a moat. People want to work here, and that keeps smart people and the people that enjoy what they're doing and enjoy who they're working with. So you got to be mentally challenged, but emotionally helpful to other people. Then it's not just, life is too short to tolerate people that you just can't get along with, right? They may be smart, amazing coder, and boy, they can really design the heck out of an app or a system, but I just don't even want to look at this person. That would be not something I want to do.
So there is Steve. And if you get a chance to catch that episode, we don't call it Story Time with Steve for nothing. The man is a natural storyteller and he can just go on and on.
Yeah, Steve is fun. I very rarely meet someone who's like telling 4 different stories all at the same time. And like, it's upon you to figure out what thing we're talking about at the present moment, because he just kind of goes back and forth between them. And it makes sense. Like he's cogently telling 4 stories on top of each other. And the only time that there's an issue is if you don't happen to come along with him at the right time. So awesome. All right. That was the 2025 episode, my friend. Our first full year is on the books and behind us, and we're going to hit it again next year super hard. Look forward to bringing a lot more interesting guests and digging up a lot more pieces of tech wisdom, but that's what we've got for the year.
Yeah, it's been a blast. This has been a really fun journey, something that I know you and I both have never really ventured out into. We're both kind of avid podcast listeners, but never really put forward the idea of doing it ourselves. And it's really been interesting. It's been enlightening. It's been fun. And I've enjoyed every minute getting to do it with you and our guest, my friend.
Yeah, absolutely. Right back at you. I'm super excited to launch into next year and see how far we can ride this thing. But it's just been a ton of fun. And even just for selfish reasons, I get to talk to really cool people. And I just happen to record it so these other people on the internet can listen. But it's a good deal.
Absolutely.
Good to see you, my friend. And we'll see the rest of you back in 2026.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Have a great end of the year.
Cheers.
Thanks for cruising along with us on SaaS That App. We hope you grabbed some insights that were inspiring, actionable, or at least entertaining.
If you enjoyed the show, don't forget to subscribe and leave a review.
Until next time, keep building, keep growing, and keep those apps sassy.